According to the most recent figures from the Department of Children and Families, there has been a 50% decrease in child abuse reporting during this time in isolation. Maria Mossaides, Chief Child Care Advocate for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, speaks with Zydalis Bauer about the concerns she has now that mandated reporters such as teachers and daycare workers have not been able to see children on a regular basis to spot potential signs of abuse. She also discussed what the state is doing to ensure the safety of children during the pandemic.
Because we know that teachers and early childhood educators are the prime filers of allegations of abuse and neglect, my concern was that we were going to not have those special eyes on the children of the Commonwealth.
It makes me a little emotional when I think about these children that are no longer going to school or going to their daycare or any type of program every day. And they're being told right now it's safer to be at home during this pandemic. But for these victims of abuse, it's not really safer for them to be at home. What options are there now that these teachers, these mandated reporters, are not seeing them every day? Who can be the voice for these children?
Well, I think one of the things that I know is occurring is the Department of Children and Families, in conjunction with our Department of Education, elementary and secondary education, are really attempting to provide some guidelines for teachers so that when they are involved in classroom settings, the virtual classrooms, that they're able to sort of ask some questions and kind of eyeball children. My current concern is that school districts are reporting large number of families who are not engaging at all in virtual classes. We don't know whether that's because they don't have the technology to participate or whether it's families are working and they can't help their children connect. But that is a population that I am increasingly concerned with. And that may be a population that we try to collect that information and see if we can't arrange for some well-child checkups for kids that we are just not connecting to and that we would expect that they would want to participate in the virtual school offerings.
Now, talk to me about the numbers that you have been seeing when it comes to reports being made during this quarantine time compared to the same time last year. What are you seeing?
We're seeing a 50% drop year over year. We normally see a drop in the summer months when kids are, home. I think the difference between the current situation and the normal drop in the summertime is that children are also participating in sports. They go to camp, they're outdoors, and so neighbors and the organized recreational programs, all of whom are mandated reporters, not the neighbors, but the organized recreational programs are also another set of eyes. So what we're seeing this point is a real serious drop in the number of reports that we are receiving. And I think because we don't know what's going to happen over the next several months, we don't know whether camps and early childhood centers will reopen. So it's going to be a really long period without professionals reporting their suspicions of abuse or neglect.
As neighbors and citizens of the community, are there anything that we can be doing to help report cases? Are there signs that we should be looking out for? What do you recommend?
Yeah, I think that sort of if you look at the children in the neighborhood, the obvious thing is to look for bruises and injuries. I mean, that is the obvious one. But I think also looking and talking to children and seeing if you notice any change in the behavior. Is the child more anxious? Is a talkative child no longer talking, or a child that never talks babbling? So any changes in what you would consider to be normal for a child in the neighborhood is something that you should, inquire about. You might want to ask a child, how does it feel now that you're home? In a calming voice, and maybe the child will relay something. I think what we can all do is check in on families, which is just checking in and saying, do you have everything that you need? How are you doing with food? How are you doing? Just acknowledging the stress that families are under, having kids home 24/7 without kids having recess, so they can't burn off some of the energies that children's normally have. I think sometimes just an understanding voice is enough for a family perhaps to divulge that they don't have enough food or that they're very stressed. And then I think we're asking everyone to do is to suggest to families that they call 211. And 211 can help them, both connect them to state services, but also connect them to local food pantries and other places where they can get the help that they may need.
I'm glad that you brought up the 211 because I think some people might be afraid to report things to get in trouble, but this is just a resource also to get help for families. Is that correct?
Yes, 211 is really there as the state support network to link families to services. And they're not, 211 is not going to sort of report to the Department of Children and Families. And I think there's also a misnomer. And so I want to correct something that when allegations of abuse and neglect are filed, it doesn't necessarily mean that a child will be removed from their family home. It's really giving the State Child Protective Service Agency an effort to help a family. And in fact, in Massachusetts, the bulk of the children, 80% of the families who come to the attention of the Department of Children and Families never have their children removed from their home, but in fact get the help so that they can in fact be the parents that we know that they want to be.
That's great. Is there any changes being made to home visits for families during this time because of the pandemic?
At the moment, visitation is being done virtually by social workers, except for those cases in which face-to-face contact is essential because of the risk to the particular families. Investigations are still occurring, and those are occurring both virtual and in person. The state system continues to operate, but for this next period of time, I think everyone is practicing the best safe practices, and unless it's essential, visitation is now occurring according to the regular schedule, but occurring virtually, and technology is being distributed in order to enable that to happen.
Where no one is really sure how long, these quarantines and this reopening phase, like how is it going to work out? How long is it going to last? Are there any new measures that you all have been thinking about as we kind of reimagine this new normal when it pertains to these types of cases?
I think we're all examining some of the positive things that have come out from virtual. And one of the things that I think we're seeing is that for many families, having virtual visits where children, where they've lost temporary custody of their children, that they might actually get in more visits using some technology than the traditional weekly visit. And it's sometimes easier for families who have transportation difficulties. So I think there's going to be some positive takeaways from being in this environment of our being a little bit more creative about linking children to their families. Clearly, I think just as we plan for every September and October when children return to school and there's an increase in complaints, it happens every single year. I think we need to be prepared for when we return to whatever new normal, that we have the capacity to respond to what we presume will be an increase in concerns reported to the Department of Children and Families.